Okay, so here's a little story from my past, and it's about how we deal with suffering. So I used to be in a bad way financially, and every time a letter came from the bank, I would kind of the little inner voice inside me would scream out in fear, and I would take that letter and I would put it in the drawer and I wouldn't open it, and I would hide away from my financial situation because it was too big to face. The thought of facing that situation just felt very, very frightening. But ultimately, that left me in a bad way because the money would run out. I would get very down in the dumps, get very depressed, and it would affect my self-esteem and that kind of thing. And this is a kind of good reflection of how we deal with suffering. We either turn away from it or we can turn to face it. Now, when we turn away from it, it makes the suffering worse. We might get a kind of an immediate break from the pain, the thought of suffering. But ultimately, it makes things worse. And we can see this in the way we eat food, the way we kind of deal with those things that need to be dealt with, but it seem too scary to deal with. For example, exercise is another good one. You know, we all need to be getting out and doing more exercise, but actually exercise is hard. But ultimately, what is harder is dealing with diabetes or obesity or the self-esteem issues of kind of going to the wardrobe and none of your clothes fitting anymore. And I was the same with money. I would hide away, but then I would become so disempowered. It just used to, really affect my self-esteem and my confidence. And I'd kind of be jealous of all the people who had the nice things and the nice cars and stuff like that. And, when those letters came from the bank, I would just hide away from them. The alternative is to go through the suffering. So you have these two options: hide away or go through. So when life gets hard, we can choose to have a drink or choose food or choose to switch on the TV, or we can turn towards it and, own that conversation. So in the end, I started opening the letters from the bank, and it was hard and it took courage. But ultimately, it armed me with what I needed to deal with my financial situation. I started to see exactly how bad it was. I started to take steps to deal with it. I looked at my my money coming in, my money going out. I created budgets, and I kind of realistically set myself up to deal with this situation. We can do the same with our weight. We can do the same with pretty much any situation that is causing us suffering. And the suffering can be a signpost. When we start to feel our self-esteem ebbing away because our clothes don't fit anymore, or because we don't like the way we look in photographs, we can start to use that to take action and to face up to it. And it might seem scary at first. It's like ripping off a sticking plaster. At first, that initial hit of pain, it can be painful. Or we can just leave it on there and leave it to fester and to get worse, and it can be extremely empowering as well. When you start to face up to those things that need facing, when you can see suffering as a signpost to the things you need to do in order to change yourself and improve your life, then, that can really build your self-esteem and your self-confidence. And keep in mind, it's an ongoing process. It never ends, but this is how it's a lifestyle choice. You can choose to hide away from those things that need your attention, or you can give them the attention on your terms. Because one way or another, you're going to deal with all this stuff, and you either own that conversation or it owns you. All right, little thought for today. Have a great day.